Hey y'all, and welcome back, or if you're new around here, hello and welcome. My name is Katie Marie, and today we're going to be diving into 5 of the most recent palettes that I finished trying, and I'm going to give you guys my reviews for those palettes in a ranking format. So I'm going to start with my least favorite out of the palettes that I tried, working all the way up to my most favorite out of these 5 palettes that I tried recently. And yeah, I'm just going to share with you guys all the looks that I created with the palettes, arm swatches, and just give you guys my overall thoughts and opinions on these palettes. And I believe almost all of them I've done separate videos for, so I will leave those linked down below, but those are more first impressions slash maybe review depending on how many looks I did with it. But this is my official review. Before I go ahead and put them on my shelves with my other palettes, I like to sit down and do a final review and just share my final thoughts after so many uses of them and let you guys know my thoughts on these palettes. So with that intro, let's get right into it and do the very first Palooza countdown review video for 2023. For the number 5 palette for this little Palooza countdown review video, I have to give it to Menagerie's Claws palette. And not so much anything to do with the quality, but it really is just color preference wise. When it comes to this palette, it's a very pretty palette, but it's very heavy on like just the pinky aspects and the light tones. With this palette, I love the addition of the green. It definitely made it interesting for me personally when it came to creating looks with it. And I like the array of shimmers that they put. They weren't too boring. They had a little pop of something, but still as a whole, the palette and all the looks that I got had a very soft look to them. So that's the main reason I'm putting it in as number 5, because you guys know, or if you're new around here, I like a lot of intense color and a lot of pigment when it comes to my looks. I'm not really into the soft, you know, kind of whisper of color on the looks. So while this palette had a lot of really neat pops within it, and I really did enjoy the color story, it was missing a little bit for me personally of just like the real intensity and those pops of colors that just makes me fall in love with the looks that I do. As a whole, the palette created a lot of pretty looks, but it didn't steal my heart. So that's the biggest reason it's coming at number 5. But as far as the quality of it, I was really happy with the pigmentation. Again, with this palette being so soft and just the color of it, I feel like as a whole, all of the matte eyeshadows had a very soft look to them as I was blending them in and patting them on and whatnot. They were just a little bit more softer, but not really, in my opinion, anything too much to do with the quality. It's just the color. And then the shimmers here, I did enjoy. I've really been enjoying Menagerie's recent shimmers that they come out with in their newer palettes. I feel like you get a really nice, easy way of picking it up, of applying it on the eyes. A really nice sparkle, a little bit of like iridescent shiftiness to them. I wouldn't call them multi-chrome, but they have a very shiny iridescent shift, especially with this palette, because it kind of has that soft feel to it as a whole. So it does give a really shiny, soft, kind of iridescent sparkle and iridescent shift to it that makes the eye looks very, very pretty. And like I said, I really do enjoy the formula. They're easy to pick up with a brush. They're very smooth to go on, that you don't have to fight too much to get it on. And then, as I said, they have a nice amount of shine to them once you have them on the eyes. I would say formidable. This shade was the least exciting just because it is such a soft type of very smooth, more a subdued and gentle type of sparkle, but it made a great inner corner highlight, so I still found a great use for it. And as a whole, I thought the formula and the quality of this palette was really nice. The packaging is also super cute, so if you're someone who likes what you see inside, especially if you're kind of analyzing the palette and you see the amount of mattes, you see the amount of shimmers, and see if you like that ratio and the type of colors, you do get some depth in here, so I was happy to see that I could get, you know, a good, decent amount of depth with my looks. But as a whole, it was a nice palette. I enjoy having it just to like the collector aspect when it comes to Menagerie, because I really do like their palettes, and I was excited to get to try it out. But as far as like the eye looks and if I really loved them, was drawn to them and just excited to play with it every day, not so much. So that's really the only reason it's coming in at the very bottom. Alright, palette number 4 I'm going to give to Menagerie Cosmetics. This is the Spice Latte, and I don't even know if this palette's available anymore, because I'm pretty sure I picked this up like over a year and a half ago. It's been a while, but I picked this up, and I remember trying the winter theme palette that I got. I got it in a bundle. There was this fall one and a winter. I tried the winter one right away because I had purchased it in the winter time. So I think this is in a winter of 2021. And then I was like, oh, I'll try this next year. And coming up to fall of last year, I kept meaning to try it. And I finally tried it in the winter again, but I was just like, I want to try it because like, look at this color story. Yes, it's very fall-esque, but I love fall tones all year long. So I still had a lot of fun creating eye looks with this palette. And obviously I put it at number 4 because the colors, the type of eye looks that I got with this palette were just so spot on, so good. I love the array from matte to shimmer, like the color choices that they put in this palette. It makes it very, very fun, versatile. And I just feel like it's so easy to get a very classic, beautiful type of fall look. I thought they did a great job. And still, you know, there was still some pops in there, like with this really fun, bright orange, this really intense, it just looked like liquid gold, like it's such a dirty type of liquid gold. It's beautiful. And then also the other two shimmers is a nice solid green and then more of like a purple red, kind of like burgundy, but has more purple than burgundy in my opinion. But a lot of really nice variety when it comes to the different type of colors. Also with the mattes. The mattes, I would say the only maybe downside or just something to be aware of is that there aren't a lot of variety with mid-tone or light colors when it comes to the mattes. There's a lot of deep tones here. I didn't mind that though, especially with a nice good mustard. I had a lot of fun creating looks with that, but just something to point out. Quality-wise, the shimmers I was very happy with. I feel like there are 3 different formulas when it comes to the shimmers. This one, as I said, it's like liquid gold. It's so beautiful, like liquid bronze. It's stunning. It's very easy to put on, very smooth when you apply. You can get a nice sharp line, and it's very intense looking on the eyes as well. And then these two have a more, it's still easy to pick up, and it's more of a fine type of sparkle, and again, easy to apply, very opaque, very beautiful. And they're one of those shimmers that's just like a simple shimmer. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Kayla, but it has a lot of pigment to it. It goes on just a very subtle little sparkle to it, or a little shine to it that's very pretty. And then the last one, it is almost the same as the two that I just spoke about, but it's just a little bit more firmly pressed and a little bit harder to kind of pick up and apply. But once you get it on, the color is very nice and opaque, and it definitely shows up, but I wouldn't really peg it as being that shiny or sparkly, so that's why I'm putting it in its own category for those reasons. But as a whole, a really nice selection and definitely nice to work with. I was very happy with it. And then when we were talking about the mattes, as a whole, they're very nice. They're nothing like mind-blowingly like, oh my goodness, so smooth, so intense, like Menagerie level when it comes to the mattes, but they're very nice, buildable, nice quality, very smooth feeling mattes. You definitely have to kind of go on with a couple layers, but it builds up easily, and then building it up gets you the opaqueness that I personally love when it comes to my eye looks, so I didn't mind that. They do have one of these shades, Plum. The purple has like glitter sparkles in it, which just fall out whenever you start using it, so it's one of those shades I'm just like, why did you even put it in there? But it is in there, so I figured I'd mention it, but that didn't really, you know, do anything for me because it's such a subtle amount of sparkle, and then as I use it, it immediately falls away, so it's just kind of pointless. But I do want to mention that it didn't ruin the palette for me though. I still really enjoyed it, and yeah, as a whole, very impressed with this palette. Very impressed with Ruby May. This is the third palette from Ruby May Cosmetics that I've tried, and all 3 palettes I've been so surprised by how nice quality it has for both mattes and shimmers, and the price isn't that bad. I always would get them on sale or something like that, so I think they can be a little pricey for the quality at, you know, at regular price, but definitely on sale. I want to say I got this one with the winter one for like $20 or something like that, so around $10 each I think, or maybe even cheaper than that. It was a great deal, and just like I said, it's really nice quality. I was very pleased and happy with the looks that I got out of it and just the time I got to spend in this palette, so definitely had to rank it high. And it's also fall themed palette, so giving it the number 4 spot. Okay, next for number 3, it's going to be the Menagerie Cosmetics Paws palette. And just first off, look at this cute, adorable, so adorable when it comes to the cover. I love it. We're actually considering, Australian Shepherds are one of those breeds we were thinking about getting. We're doing a lot of research, so I have no idea if we're actually going to get an Australian Shepherd, but I thought it was pretty cool that they had an Australian Shepherd on the cover of their palette when they launched. I was like, oh, look at that. We're looking at them. Anyway, here's what the palette looks like, and this is such a good palette. I feel like it's a condensed version of, you know, not really one of their palettes, but kind of like a combination of some of their palettes. I just felt like it was a nice and just concise version of the Kalia story that I really enjoy. And it's just a 9pan palette, so you're not going to get a ton of looks, but there's enough variety in here that I felt like I could get a really nice blue look. I could get a nice neutral look with the browns and the more duochrome, like, what is this, blue-green shimmer here. And then you can also get really colorful with the green and the yellow, mixing it with the orange. I got a decent amount of variety with this palette. And the 3 shimmers that were included in this palette I really liked because they were nice and different from one another. It didn't feel too close or repetitive, and this green is a great, you know, inner corner highlight or all over the lid. I would say that this shimmer Chew Toy down here is definitely a different formula than Good Boy and Candy. I feel like those 2 shimmers were much more of a multi-chrome, like a dark base, or is it called a black base multi-chrome, where they have a lot of pigment. It's very dark to it, and it has a nice amount of shift. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera, but I like to try when I'm doing this just to see. It's really pretty. Nothing too crazy obvious and strong, but it definitely has a little shift when you are wearing it and going about your day and kind of catching the different lights as you turn your head. It is a pretty shift that I enjoyed, but Chew Toy is a really nice shimmer, and both of the formulas in this palette when it comes to the shimmers I really did enjoy. I feel like the multi-chromes I don't get as great wear as with her just Menagerie's regular shimmers, but it's just maybe a little bit of creasing on my lid as I open and close my eyes throughout the day, and of course the sparkle kind of transferring everywhere, but nothing too obvious that I like look at myself at the end of the day and it's like, oh my goodness, what happened to your eyes? It's nothing that intense. I have to really get up close in the mirror to go like, okay, I feel like there's a little bit of wear down happening here. And then the mattes, I was really happy with the matte quality in this palette. I feel like it packed a nice punch. There was enough pigment to them. A couple of them I had to build up once or twice, but for the most part, especially when we're talking about the darker shades, there was a lot of nice pigment to them. They're nice and soft as I like them, so I was very happy to see the quality in this palette. I wouldn't say it's quite as intense and just saturated and, you know, like staining-esque as like Whale Song, but it is much better than I feel like the last palette was Sugar High. I was a little disappointed in the intensity and the saturation and the pigmentation of her mattes. I definitely think this is a step up from there. And even, you know, with the Claws too, I feel like it's more saturated, but also the Claws, like I said, I feel like it was kind of meant to be a little bit more desaturated. So with this palette, the Paws palette, I was happy to see that all the looks that I got the saturation and the intensity that I wanted to very easily with the matte. So as a whole, I really did enjoy it. I created a lot of looks with it. Two of the looks, I think you'll probably think I did it twice, but no, I did those different days, but I did them weeks apart. So when I picked it back up after, you know, not using it for a couple weeks and I was like just going for my favorite look, that's why I ended up doing like literally the same look twice. I think I just switched out a couple colors here, but I mean, you guys can obviously see what type of color I like to go for when I'm not thinking about it, but overall, I really did enjoy it, and definitely a winner, and with such a cute cover, I'm definitely going to have to find a place back here for it because it is adorable. This video is going to be very heavy when it comes to Menagerie, but I have the Killer Purr for my number 2 spot in this countdown, and this is the revamped version. So I did do a video where I kind of showed the differences between the two, but we're just going to talk about this palette, the newly available, because I don't think you can get the old one anymore, but this is the revamped version off of their original that they are selling on their website. So if you're at all interested in getting the Killer Purr, this is what you can get. And I love the upgrade and the improvement that they made in this palette. They definitely improved on the shimmers. All 4 of these shimmers I thought were fantastic, and as a whole I feel like all of them are really easy and very similar in formula and in ease of use. Of course, these two up here are a little bit more darker base, and these two have a little bit more of a softer base, but formula wise and when using them, they all kind of behave the same and have similar formulas. These two up here are that type of shifty, but I feel like it's helpful to know that they have a shift to them, because when I was seeing looks or seeing pictures with this palette and it was just kind of a straight on picture, they look so similar, but when I got it in person and actually like had it sitting in front of me, they look very different. Because just sitting here, this shade Prowl has like a purple shift from the side, and then Drought has a much stronger kind of blue-green instead of just that bright green. It's not as strong a shift, but Prowl definitely leans very purple when you're using it, so I feel like that's helpful to know. But overall, I really like the shimmers. Like I said, I've been really enjoying Menagerie shimmers, and all 4 of these I absolutely enjoyed. I should say right here, the looks that you're going to see, I am missing a lot of looks. So I actually took this with me when I went on vacation. We were gone for a week. I did about 6 looks with this palette during that time, and I didn't take pictures every day just because I forgot, or it was so cloudy I couldn't get a good picture, that type of thing. So I don't have all the looks that I created with this palette, but I did some when I came home from that look, and as I said, I did at least 6 when I was gone. So I used this a ton, and I felt like there was just so much variety when it came to this palette. I got really neutral looks, I got really colorful looks. I love the intensity, also too with the intensity of the mattes. Like I was saying, their old Killer Purr, the pigmentation was so intense and beautiful. It was lovely to work with, and I was happy to see that I felt like for the most part with all of these shadows, except maybe Chase because it's so light in general, but all of them were very intense, very saturated in the color, very pigmented too. They weren't like so, you know, delicate that you touch and you get a bunch of powder, but I would dip in there, you know, gently like I typically do with any palette, and I'd start using it and it would just have so much intense saturation. I didn't feel like I had to spend a whole lot of time building up the mattes, which I absolutely loved, that they kept that saturation and intensity with this palette. I really do like this palette. If you're someone who likes neutrals, likes, you know, fall tones, but you also like to have color and have fun, I feel like this is my perfect type of neutral palette for me personally, where I can get very neutral looks with a little pop of something, or, you know, maybe a little bit over the top and neutral, but you still get, you know, can stick to the more neutral sides and get a very neutral look that's still saturated, has a lot of fun with the sparkly shift to it when it comes to the shimmers. And overall, I just really did enjoy, and I was happy to see they did such a fantastic job with the revamping for this palette. I think they hit it out of the park. So if you're at all curious in the Killer Purr, maybe you didn't get it because there was too many repetitive shades or too heavy in the mattes, I feel like this is a great revamping of it because it gives you, I feel like the only 2 shades that are super close is Antelope and the Hunt, but even those 2 when you use them on their eyes are pretty different. And then all the other shades, there's such a nice variety of shades. I feel like it would take a lot of looks to kind of start repeating looks. And like I said, I used it a couple times here, 6 times, so maybe like 8, 9 times, and I never felt like I ever repeated a look, and I could have done many more. I really did enjoy this palette. I had to give it a top spot when it came to my countdown because I was very impressed overall with the quality of the mattes, quality of the shimmers, wear time, all of those factors just kept getting a thumbs up from me, so definitely enjoyed this one. Alright, for the number 1 palette, it is what is on my eyes today, and it is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Lure palette. Oh my goodness, this palette just stole my heart, obviously. Look at this palette. It's such a fun take on a colorful palette because it's colorful with pastels, and I've kind of gone over it already in my review video with this palette. I think I had 5 looks in there, and of course, you know, during this video you're going to see all those looks and also the other ones I did beyond that because I love this palette so much I couldn't stop after I reviewed it, and I've done a couple more looks since then because it's just such a fun color story. I had so much fun combining the different rows. And I think that's something I really love about Blend Bunny Cosmetics is the way she puts her palettes in those rows of like deepest, mid-tone, light, and shimmer. It makes my brain just have such a fun, easy time creating looks. I just go like, oh, I'm going to put this row out in the crease. I'm going to put this row in the inner corner. We'll mix it up with the shimmers on the lid. And I feel like every time I can just go to a different row, change it up, just scramble it up in some different way. And I have a different look every time. And the quality, oh my goodness, I just talk about this all the time whenever I talk about Blend Bunny, but the quality is superb. And I think this palette is my favorite when it comes to all of her palettes that I've tried in terms of the variety of mattes she put, because each and every row, each and every color is so saturated and beautiful. Like there is no dud for me personally when it comes to the mattes in here. And I've said it before, I've tried her Primal palette and her Original Blends palette, and for both of those, especially in the lightest row, there were some that I just felt like didn't need to be there because they were so light, they just didn't pack enough punch for me to make a difference, or they were so similar and so light that it was just like have one, not both. But with this palette, like I said, each and every one packs a punch. Even this lightest row is like neon. It's so intense when it comes to blending it out. It's still very bright and intense, packs a punch, and I love that. And like I said, each and every shade in here, I never felt like one was too close to the other, and that just makes me very happy. Now, not to bring this down at all, but the shimmers in here were probably, it's hard to say. I feel like they were my favorite that she produced. I guess I've only tried her Primal in this one, but between the Primal palette and this palette, these were the easiest for me to apply. Either that or I'm just getting used to her formula, but I found these so easy to apply with a brush. I never had to really struggle. They had great payoff when it came to the sparkle. They're all very light, so that's something to keep in mind. They have that more of a pastel wash when it comes to the color on your lid, but Pearl is a multi-chrome that is stunning. I absolutely loved, and all these are beautiful. They're very slick on the eyes, they're very smooth, they have a ton of sparkle to them, but because of that smooth formula, I feel like they go on very smoothly on the eyes as well, and I had a great time with them. However, I feel like wear time, they don't last and hold up as well as her Primal colors did, because maybe it has to do, I was thinking about it, I feel like it might have to do because Primal has so much, maybe a darker base to it that they stay around more, whereas this has such a light tone pastel base. I feel like throughout the day it gets softer and softer and just kind of wears away a little bit. Nothing noticeable, nothing too bad, and usually if I make sure I put on glitter primer, maybe if I really want it to stay, I'll pat a little bit of glitter primer sealer on top, and it's fine. It's nothing crazy. It's not like I look at my face halfway through the day and it's like creased in, there's this obvious crease on my lid, or it's all worn away and it's like, where'd the eyeshadow go? It's nothing like that, but it's just something I noticed compared to her Primal palette that I felt like by the end of the day or halfway through the day, when I went to look at my makeup, it's like, it looks a little bit more subdued, or like, I just dropped my palette. Anyway, but it just looks a little bit worn down. So something to keep in mind. I don't think it's terrible when it comes to the quality of the shimmers. It's just not the best, at least holding up on my eyes personally. And they're not really normal. They're more oily, but they're not as crazy oily as they used to be back in the day. I always wear an eyeshadow primer whenever I sit down to do my makeup, and typically 9 times out of 10, I also put on a glitter primer before doing a shimmer. But overall, I liked applying these. I liked how sparkly they were on the eyes. They just, maybe it's because of the color, like I said, by the end of the day, the color felt like it had gone a little bit. But honestly, the mattes are so amazing in this palette. I really didn't knock it that much in my mind, but I did want to mention it since I am reviewing this palette in this video. And the Pearl shade, like I said, it's a multi-chrome. It's so beautiful. I would be totally fine creating all sorts of, different eye looks with these mattes and using the Pearl shade each and every time because it is so beautiful and it shows up so different depending on what, you know, colors you have it with. It's stunning, and I didn't really notice that one doing anything too funky at all, honestly. Although the 2 times I wore it, I think I topped it with a sealer, so maybe that's why I never noticed it doing anything too crazy. Out of all 3 palettes that I tried from Blend Bunny Cosmetics, the Primal, the blends, and this palette, this might be my I mean, we're getting into spring, so I feel like I'm really into the depth with the pop of pastel neons. So this palette is just speaking to me so much, and it's so inspiring. And I love, like I said, the depth. Oh my goodness, the depth is so fun. This is my type of pastel. But I think that quality-wise, when it comes to all her mattes, this is my favorite because, like I said, there isn't a single dud in here. I just think that's awesome to see as well when it comes to Blend Bunny Cosmetics, that every palette she comes out with, I'm like, oh, maybe this is my new favorite because it's just improved so much. So I think that's awesome for her. You know, Blend Bunny, she's continuing to improve her formula, and with that track record, I can't wait to see what she comes out with next. But this is definitely a big favorite of mine at the moment, so I had to get the #1 spot. Alright, so those are all the reviews for the 5 of my most recent palettes that I finished reviewing, and at this time I've been trying so many new palettes. Probably give me a week or 2 and I can have another video like this with another 5 because I'm getting through a lot of palettes recently, so I am way behind on doing these Palette Palooza countdown reviews. But I hope you enjoyed seeing my review on all 5 of these palettes. I hope you guys enjoy watching these Palette Palooza countdown review videos. I always love producing them. So yeah, that is gonna do it for me for this video. As always, if you enjoy this type of content, if you enjoy seeing all the looks that I got with these palettes, check me out over on Instagram. I'm LadyKatie92 over there, and as I said, and as you guys saw during the video, I post a lot of reels using these palettes that I am reviewing, so you can kind of see more looks or how I create the looks over on my Instagram, LadyKatie92. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you guys so very much for watching once again, and I'll see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye guys.